was taking care of her baby, thinking I was helping a friend. But at that very time, she was with my husband. However, what I found out later, it changed my life forever. It turned out her baby was my husband's. I had always considered myself a happy woman. I'm 32, living in a quiet suburb in Virginia, in a small house with a white picket fence that Tom and I bought 5 years ago. Everything here seemed so perfect. Sunday breakfasts on the porch, summer trips to the lake, shared plans for future children. Tom was always attentive, making me laugh even on the worst days, and I was sure he was the person I would grow old with. My best friend Melissa came into my life back in college. We lived in the dorms, shared a box of cheap pizza, laughed until we cried over silly things, and supported each other through everything. When I moved in with Tom, she also found a place nearby, and we spent a lot of time together. Joint BBQs, coffee walks, movie nights. There was never anything strange between Tom and Melissa. They joked, occasionally had coffee without me if they ran into each other in town, but I never even thought twice about it. It was Melissa, my person, almost a sister. Last spring, Melissa became a mother. Her boyfriend disappeared from her life during the pregnancy, leaving her alone with a little girl, Lily. I saw how hard it was for her. Sleepless nights, mounting bills, and the endless struggle to balance work with childcare. Tom and I were always there for her. I cooked her soup, helped with groceries, and sometimes even stayed overnight so she could get at least a little sleep. Tom never objected. On the contrary, he said he was proud of me for being such a good friend. One time, in the summer, Melissa asked me to watch Lily during the day while she went into the city for a job interview. I didn't hesitate for a second. We agreed she would drop her daughter off at my house and pick her up after lunch. That morning, Tom behaved as usual, drinking coffee, scrolling through news on his phone, asking if I needed anything. Nothing hinted that my life was about to fall apart. That day started quite ordinarily. Summer was in full swing, and the heat was so thick that even the morning air felt heavy. Melissa arrived around 9. Lily was asleep in her car seat, a tiny fist clutching the corner of a blanket. I took her in my arms, and Melissa quickly exchanged a few words, said she would hurry back, and left. I spent the rest of the morning with the little one, feeding her, changing diapers, singing nursery rhymes. Time flew by. Tom went out to the garage, saying he wanted to work on his tools, and I didn't pay any attention. He often did that. Around 1 o'clock, Lily fell asleep in her stroller on the porch, and I decided to take advantage of the moment and run over to Melissa's house to grab a bottle she had forgotten. Melissa's house was only a few blocks away, and I knew I'd be quick while Lily was sleeping. I approached her house, keys in my pocket. We often used each other's keys when one needed to water plants or pick up things. Opening the door, I heard loud laughter. A man's and a woman's. And that man's voice. I knew it too well. I froze in the hallway, listening. The voices came from deeper inside the house, from the direction of the bedroom. The laughter rang out again, high-pitched, like someone had just heard a great joke. I found it odd. Melissa was supposed to be in the city for an interview. I quietly closed the door behind me to keep it from slamming. The key turned in the lock almost silently, but my heart was pounding so loudly I thought it would drown out everything else. The corridor smelled of her perfume, delicate, with notes of vanilla, the one I had given her for her birthday. I took a few steps forward. Muffled sounds could be heard near the voices, like someone moving on the bed or turning over the blanket. "You know this is wrong," she said softly, almost laughing. And then the man's voice, low, slightly hoarse. "Maybe so, but I can't stop." My hands suddenly turned cold. This was the voice I heard every day. The voice that once whispered to me that I was his only one. I stood by the bedroom door, but I didn't open it. My whole body was tense. I tried to inhale, but my lungs seemed to have forgotten how. A thought flashed through my mind. What if I'm about to find out something that can never be forgotten? I hadn't seen anything yet, but inside, I already knew. I stood by the door, staring at the handle. One move, and everything would become reality. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. I could still step back, still pretend I hadn't heard anything. But my feet moved me forward. The door was ajar and I pushed it open gently. The light from the window fell directly onto the bed. There was Melissa, her hair spread across the pillow, and next to her Tom, my Tom, shirtless, with that smile I once thought was mine alone. They didn't notice me right away. I stood and stared. I felt disconnected from my body. I could hear my own heartbeat, felt my throat constricting so tightly I couldn't swallow, but I couldn't utter a single word. When Tom finally looked up, his expression changed. He turned pale, mumbled something, but I wasn't listening. Melissa looked away, as if she had suddenly found something very interesting on the floor. I took a step back. I didn't scream, didn't ask, how could you? I just felt my legs moving me out of that room, out of that house, out of that life. At the threshold, I stopped, took a deep breath, and quietly said, I no longer want to know who you are. And I left, without even slamming the door. Because broken things can be picked up, but broken trust, never. A few days passed. I didn't answer Tom's calls or Melissa's messages. Only occasionally did I read short texts in which he wrote that it's not what it seems. But I had seen everything with my own eyes. What else could be not what it seems? That morning, I was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of cold coffee when the doorbell rang. Melissa was standing on the porch, holding Lily. I wanted to close the door, but she quickly whispered, please, just listen to me. She came in, gently sat her daughter in a chair, and began to speak. Her voice trembled, but the words cut into me like glass. Lily, she is Tom's. It happened before I even knew I was pregnant. I didn't plan to lie to you. The room suddenly felt tight and the air heavy. I looked at the child. Big gray eyes. Exactly like his. And suddenly it flashed through my mind. All these months I held her, sang her lullabies, and didn't even know I was holding the proof of betrayal. I didn't cry. My tears seemed to have dried up inside. I simply stood up, took the house keys, and placed them on the table in front of Melissa. Take them. And never come back here. She said something in response, but I wasn't listening anymore. Because there is a pain that cannot be articulated. It just lives inside, and because of it, the heart beats quieter than before. He appeared unexpectedly, late in the evening. I was about to go to bed when someone knocked quietly on the door. Opening it, I saw him. His eyes were red, his face tired, as if he hadn't slept for several nights. Please, let me explain. His voice trembled, like a person trying to hold on to the last chance. I silently stepped aside, letting him into the house. He started speaking quickly, stumbling, that it was a mistake, that he didn't know how to stop, that it happened accidentally with Melissa back then, and then it became too late. I love you, only you. You are my life. I messed everything up, but I want to fix it. He looked straight into my eyes, searching for even a spark of hope. I listened and felt a void inside. No anger, no compassion. Only weariness. Tom, I said quietly, you took more than just our marriage from me. You took my friendship, my trust, my belief that we were real. How can you give that back? He lowered his head. There was no answer. And in that silence, I realized that even if he stayed, I would no longer be the person I once was. 3 months have passed. I moved to a different neighborhood, into a small apartment overlooking a park. I make my morning coffee, watching children play on the swings. I live without rush. Sometimes at night, I wake up from dreams where I still see that day, that room, those faces. But in the morning, I get up and force myself to keep going. I started reading more, signed up for photography courses. I learned to enjoy the silence, the kind that doesn't crush, but heals. People say that time heals. Perhaps it doesn't heal, it just teaches you to live with the scars so they don't bleed anymore. Sometimes I think that forgiveness is not always about returning. Sometimes it's just a decision to let go, even if you let go forever.